Welcome back to Mrs. Scott's biology class. The current unit that we're working on is called Biochemistry. Specifically, we've been discussing the four major macromolecules that are needed to sustain all biological living systems. So you were asked to create a Prezi to review these four macromolecules and important functions of each, as well as the monomer units that make them up and the elemental composition. So let's take a look at a Prezi that Sammy Bashir made. Macro meaning large, big molecules. Be a good idea to take some notes while we're going through this Prezi. Remember that they are all organic molecules because they contain carbon. Carbohydrates. Notice the monomer units are monosaccharides, mono meaning one, poly means many. One function of a carbohydrate is that it is a primary source of energy. So if you're an athlete, before an event, you'd want to eat pasta or cereal, something that's going to give you quick energy. Polysaccharide is many monosaccharides together. Remember, these are terms to know. And the elemental composition, carbohydrates are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. This is what a polysaccharide looks like. Many individual monosaccharides linked together. An example of a monosaccharide would be glucose. An important disaccharide, di means two, is sucrose, table sugar. Second macromolecule are the lipids, also known as what? Fats. So if you do not have these in your notes, please fill it in. One major function of lipids is that it stores energy and it's used as insulation. What's another important function of lipids? Has to do with the cell membrane. Elements that make lipids up are carbohydrates, hydrogen, and oxygen. This is what a lipid or fat looks like. Proteins. Very important to remember the monomer unit of proteins are amino acids linked together. One function is that they repair muscle. Enzymes are proteins. The elements that make up a protein are carbon, remember organic molecule, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. This is an image of an amino acid. Enzymes are very important proteins. What do you know about enzymes? What do you recall? Some important information. And this is an illustration showing you the active site of an enzyme is very specific to the molecule that it is going to react with. In this case, it's sucrose. It only does one job its whole enzyme life. It only does one job over and over and over again. In this case, you can see that the enzyme, the sucrose molecule, attaches to the enzyme. Hydrolysis occurs, and this sucrose molecule is broken down into the individual units of glucose and fructose. I'm going to skip ahead. Let's go ahead and skip to a video about enzymes.
Hey, Professor. Just the other day, I saw this small man swallow an entire steak bigger than the size of his head. And it got me to thinking, how could he possibly digest all that in just a few hours?
Well, the steak is first chewed in the mouth into bits and pieces that fall into the stomach. You might already know that the stomach contains a powerful acid that can dissolve even metals. But what you did not know is that this acid is not what ultimately breaks down the steak. No, it's very tiny and special molecules called enzymes that do the job. Strangely, these enzymes find the stomach acid a cozy place to work in.
Whoa! It's like small piranhas finishing up a whale in a sea of acid. Imagine what I could do with that.
Ooh. Huh? Well, it doesn't work that way.
What do you mean it doesn't work that way?
I knew you were going to say that. To find out, you need to know what exactly enzymes are and how they work. Whenever you're ready, click Next to continue. What are enzymes? They are proteins that speed up chemical reactions. Without them, reactions can still occur, but they would be too slow to support life. There are many different types of enzymes, and they come in all manner of shapes and sizes. For example, what you call the piranha enzyme is actually pepsin. It is only found in the stomach and digests proteins. In your mouth there is amylase, which breaks down starch. In your cells alone are hundreds of enzymes that control your cell activity and defend them from invasions by microbes like bacteria and viruses. Though enzymes can appear very different, they all share a few characteristics in common. Let's now take a look at what these are. Number 1, each enzyme has an active site. This is the groove in the enzyme where the molecules they act on, called substrates, are captured and made to undergo a reaction. The substrates are either broken apart or combined together to form products. For instance, starch found in the bread that you eat is digested to form simple sugars called glucose that is then absorbed into the body. Glucose is used up as energy, but when there's too much of it, special enzymes combine the glucose molecules together to form a giant molecule called glycogen, which is then stored away in the liver and muscles for later use. Number 2, enzymes are very specific. Each enzyme can only bind to one type of substrate. Let's look at the case of lipase enzyme, which breaks down fats. Molecules like glucose and proteins cannot fit into the active site of lipase. Only fat cells can bind to the active site because they have the right shape. This ability to act on just fat cells is very important for lipase. Lipase converts fats into energy. Now imagine what would happen if lipase can also convert proteins into neurochemicals for the brain to function well. If you no longer need the extra energy from your storage of fats, lipase will be deactivated. But this means that lipase can no longer produce precious neurochemicals for your brain. In other words, when you stop burning fats, you end up damaging your brain. To prevent such freakish scenarios from happening in our body, enzymes must only act on one type of molecule. Number 3, enzymes are recycled. Enzymes are not altered by the reactions they speed up. Immediately after they finish one reaction, they can act on a new substrate. This way, only a small amount of enzyme is needed to speed up thousands of reactions.
Okay, so we've just talked about proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and now we're on our fourth macromolecule, nucleic acids. So the monomer units of nucleic acids are nucleotides. Examples of nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. So if you know that an example of a nucleic acid is DNA, you know that one of its major functions is to store genetic information. And both DNA and RNA are involved in protein synthesis or making proteins. The elemental composition of nucleic acids is carbon, organic molecule, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and a phosphate. So here's a picture of a DNA molecule. It's a double helix. I hope you found this Prezi beneficial and helpful. Thank you, Semi Bashir. Very good job. So please review as often as needed, and We will continue with pH levels in the next unit.